Hey guys, Soulless Reviews here, and today I want to talk about the Michael Jackson's most iconic record of all time, Thriller. Thriller was released in the 1980s and since then has been viewed as probably one of the best pop albums of all time. Each song off that record had placed on the charts all around and seemed to stay there for a fair amount of time too. They weren't just here today and gone tomorrow like some of the more popular artists of our decade. The album even won Michael Jackson 8 Grammys in 1 year, including Best Album of the Year. Like, holy shit. That's something Adele can't do, and I don't know, who else wins a lot of Grammys? Taylor Swift? I mean, like in one sitting? I don't think Taylor Swift could pull that off. But anyways, point being that Michael Jackson, even through all the scandalous rumors that were going on about him throughout history, he still has this legendary musical background where he has been one of, if not the most legendary musical artists of all time. Now, since the beginning of music, I started like anybody else would. I just started in the mainstream and kind of dug my way from there, what was relevant of that year. And I progressed, and eventually my musical knowledge grew, and Michael Jackson seemed to be one of the biggest figures in my mind, and I did listen to a lot of his music back in the day. He was a real influential figure for me. I liked a lot of his music. I thought it was real nice. It was pop, R&B, rock, all that stuff, and I thought he pulled it off well. What I really liked about Michael Jackson's work is he took the time to make every song on his albums elegant and perfect and have its own theme to it. It wasn't like he had filler on an album, like a lot of artists do today. He took the time to make sure every song in his album was something special. Even if it wasn't as good as other tracks, it was still something in its own entirety. It wasn't just filler so this album could have 12 tracks. So of course I've already listened to this album, but I want to re-listen to it because it kind of fits the Halloween theme. As you guys have already guessed, the lead or the most powerful single off this album is Thriller, and it becomes very popular around this time of year because of its seasonal effect. The whole mood, the whole atmosphere of the song kind of has this eerie vibe to it, and it's kind of a Halloween theme even though this album came out around November 30th in the 1980s. It's still heavily popularized around this time. And I thought, hey, I'm in the Halloween spirit, why not review something Halloweenish, right? So, ladies and gentlemen, I am going to re-listen to Thriller by Michael Jackson, take some more notes, really get back that old feel of why I loved him so much, and then afterwards, I am going to tell you guys just how I feel about it. Yeah, this album is everything that I remembered it to be, and it's even more than that, too. When I was younger, listening to Michael Jackson's music, what I really listened to is how catchy it was, and just how overall infectious the music was, and how it would get me up and dancing to it, and just how I also noticed how each song had its own personality to it, but beyond those points, I never really examined it any further than that. I'm really glad I actually listened to this again because there's a lot of cool things going on in the background, a lot of instrumentals, a lot of nice little touches that he added to his music just to perfect each and every song on here. The topic of discussion that he's going for is solid by his vocals and solid by his instrumentals, and it's just overall the production choices and the way he manipulates the track just to perfect around what he's talking about is what I love so much about this album. And I can't think of a better example than Thriller, the title track. Of course, there's the coyote howling, and then there's that kind of door slamming and doors creaking atmosphere effect, and also how there's the monologue at the end that adds to the overall creepiness of the track, but there's also the instrumental, the overall production choice of that track is what helps amplify it as a very eerie song. It's infectious as a pop song while coinciding to be also a more fearful song. It's kind of a scary, it's weird because it's infectious as a pop song, but at the same time it comes off as kind of like a scary track, and that's what I can appreciate so much about what this track is offering. It came together as a beautiful blend that you can listen to that track really at any time. It doesn't have to be around the Halloween time to appreciate the true eeriness that Michael Jackson was going for and succeeded in doing when producing that track. What I really noticed this time around when I was indulging to this album for the second time in this more mature state is how much he emphasizes the different genres that he's blending together, like R&B, funk, and rock, especially those. Pop pretty much follows this album all the way through. It's a base of pop, but there's also some songs that distinctly overshadow in different genres with the base of pop. Like, for instance, PYT, that has a pop base to it, but at the same time also has a majority of funk added to it, with also a tad of like an electric feel to it, like he does using the electric piano in that song. And overall, the combination of that bass pop, along with the majority overpowering funk, along with some electric instrumentals, it all clashes together for this very elegant, masterful song. Like, he made sure that each sound he was using on this album, especially in these in-depth songs, they clashed together well, and they made sure he got the main instrumental that he wanted across. Like, again, for instance, Beat It, which was mainly, for that song, he wanted to focus on the rock aspect. Overall on that track, of course, there's a pop bass to it, but a majority of that track is you hearing some great drums, a drum set, you're hearing great guitars, there's even a guitar solo towards the end of that track that really, it just adds to that really adrenaline vibe he's trying to get across to Beat It. And like every song on here, he makes sure that it clashes together nicely. It's not just a bunch of rock instrumentals with a pop bass that makes you kind of question why it was done that way. You know it's done that way because of how it comes together. It comes together very nicely, very elegantly. It's a pop vibe, but at the same time you're getting a majority of rock instrumentals that can make you feel like he was actually trying to give across some great music here. And even though he's solely a pop artist, I can mistake him for an R&B artist any day because he pulls through with some great R&B tracks too. And this is kind of like the cool thing, guys. This thing is only 9 tracks long, but somehow manages to clash all these elements together in these genres and does a fantastic job of doing it. That's what just makes this album so great. But like I was saying, R&B wise, like The Girl Is Mine, Human Nature, and The Lady in My Life, all great tracks. They express his vocals. When doing R&B, he focuses more on using his vocals than what's going on in the background, and does a great job doing so. He can't bellow from the bottom of his heart. He's no Adele. He's no Beyonce. But what he can do, he can use very good pitches that allow for him to use different high pitches, low pitches, using just his elegant, smooth voice to kind of give that vibe of the R&B feel to it. It actually comes out sounding great on a majority of these tracks. Actually, one of my favorite tracks on here, if I really had to pick like a top tier, would probably be The Girl Is Mine with Paul McCartney. Because I actually didn't get this when I was younger, but re-listening to it, I almost feel as though, I'm almost positive, that him and Paul McCartney are almost feeling like, when they were initially singing, I thought they were just going over with the same basis of, they're talking about some girl that should be with them, who shouldn't be with a guy. A main topic that has been used throughout the ages, I've heard it countless times on albums, but what's original here is the fact that, I mean, not only is Paul McCartney, he pulls through here, he does a fantastic job collaborating with Michael Jackson, it also seems like they're fighting over the girl with each other. They're not just talking about the same thing in different perspectives. They're talking about like how they're both fighting over the same girl. And I just love how they did that. Like at the end, how they had that back and forth actually just talking to each other about why the girl deserves to be them, but at the same time they're kind of joking around with each other. And I thought that was fantastic because people can look back at that now and be like, that was a great moment in music history, how two of one of the greatest artists, a Beatle and Michael Jackson, collaborated together and made a fantastic song. And that should be something we can look back on and be like, that's great. I mean, that's music history right there. I mean, guys, this thing was real short, only 9 tracks long. I got around listening to it a lot, but even in being so short, it packs so much in it, and that's just the amazing part of it. That's the beauty of it. Like I said earlier, each song, it's distinctively different, but what Michael Jackson does is he focuses on each of those tracks, and he makes sure that the tracks are elegantly wrapped together and have their own style, their own personality. So even though this isn't a very cohesive project, each song is different, it manages that when you switch from one song to the next, for instance, how The Girl Is Mine was kind of like it was definitely different from the next track, Thriller. There were two kind of polar opposites, and sound-wise, I was perfectly fine with them being polar opposites because they sounded great in their own respective songs. It's definitely an immediate mood switcher because you get that eerie feel with Thriller right after you just got that kind of smooth, sexy track with MJ and Paul McCartney, but that's fine. I have no problem with that because both of those songs, they execute themselves well, perfectly, almost amazingly. This is one of maybe the few albums that can put together a bunch of distinctly different songs and make it sound this perfect. I mean, that's maybe one of my favorite aspects about this project. I mean, maybe the last thing I want to mention is the fact that I didn't really notice, more in the beginning of this project, he uses horns in them, and I didn't really notice that until I actually paid attention to the instrumentals. In what I'm doing now when I'm listening to music, I'm trying to listen to more what the music is sounding like, rather than how infectious it is. On his earlier project, just the one before this one, Off the Wall, he used some horns in his music, but I didn't really notice it, specifically trumpets. I didn't really notice them all that much, but what I noticed is that the horns he used on that project seemed to carry over into this one on, especially the beginning tracks like Wanna Be Startin' Something and Baby Be Mine and The Girl Is Mine, and even a little bit on Thriller you could detect them too. But after Thriller they kind of phase out because he didn't really want to focus on the trumpets. If he used trumpets throughout the whole project then it would sound a little redundant, but he decided to ditch that, especially when he got to Beat It, the next track, which was a soul rock feel to it. It was just kind of cool when I was listening to Wanna Be Startin' Something, how the horns it added to how catchy the song was, how it was an infectious, a really really well executed track was because I liked the instrumental, I liked the upbeat, peppy feel to it when it coincided with the trumpets, and I loved that feel to it, and I didn't notice, until I was listening to it a couple times, how the trumpets seemed to be reoccurring throughout the couple first tracks. So overall, guys, you already know what it is. Michael Jackson is sadly passed away, but in his legacy, he left behind some amazing music, especially this album right here might be one of the greatest in history, considering the fact that it is only 9 tracks long, but packs so much creativity, so much in it. It's an amazing project. It blows me away almost every time I listen to it. I can't help but get up and dance to the songs that are infectious, and just almost shed a tear, and I'm listening to him crooning with Paul McCartney or the other tracks where he's being extremely soulful. I didn't mention Human Nature, but that's a fantastic R&B track. Like, just love it. It's great. Just a little side note. But like I was saying, guys, definitely check this out. It fits the Halloween spirit. Thriller does. But there's also some other things on here that can expand your music, widen your horizon of music. There's really some stuff on here that you can almost relate to modern day music, and that Michael Jackson is an inspiration for a lot of pop artists. So definitely check this out. A classic album, a fantastic album, something for the books. Amazing, amazing, amazing. What else can I say? And that is all I got for you guys. If you would like to like or subscribe, that'd be awesome. I really appreciate it, and have a happy Halloween. Soulless Reviews.